Only chance to see if my wife will cheat on me. Bad days for me have a way of getting worse long before they even think about getting better. The clock didn't go off when it was supposed to, and I was already late for the start of the workday. I jumped in my car, rear-ended a kid's bike, and the handlebars blew a tire. I put the spare on and headed to work, and a mile from home I got pulled over for speeding 10 points over the speed limit. 15 minutes and 6 blocks later, I stopped at a stoplight and got rear-ended. Naturally, there was a car in front of me, and I found myself rear-ended. When the dust settled and everything was sorted out, it turned out that my car was unfit to drive. The police report was done with, the same cop who wrote me a speeding ticket. The tow truck disappeared into the street with my car, and after calling work from the road and informing them of the circumstances and that I wouldn't be at work, I found myself in a donut shop drinking coffee and waiting for a cab. The cab dropped me off at my house. I went inside, put the coffee on, sat down at my phone, and started making the necessary calls. I called the body shop, arranged for an estimate and scheduled a time to have the work done, and then called my insurance agent to arrange for the money. The agent gave me the bad news. The policy did not cover towing, and I would have to pay for that part. I called around to find the best price on a rental car and arranged to pick it up when my wife got home from work and could drive me back. I thought about calling Marge and letting her know what had happened, but decided against it. Marge is a born nervous wreck, and she would spend the rest of the day before she got home worrying about whether or not I was okay. I had already informed work that I would be gone that day, so with some free time, I decided to go down to the basement and do some work. I was measuring a piece of drywall when I heard a car door slam outside, followed a minute or so later by the front door opening. I looked at the clock and saw that it was a little after 12. Marge must have decided to be home for dinner. I was halfway up the stairs when I heard her chuckle and say, "Keep your hands to yourself, Mike. You're only here to see if you can solve a problem with my computer." "Bullshit, Marge. If that's all I was here for, you'd have come to work today in your regular pants and blouse. You didn't wear that low-cut top, short skirt, and heels to turn me on, and the only reason I'm turned on is so I can turn you on." I quietly walked to the stairs and peeked cautiously behind the door jamb. They were standing by the couch, and while I watched, he pushed Marge back and she sat down on the couch. He sat down on the couch next to her and put his arm around her and kissed her. I stood there waiting for the explosion. It was bound to happen, if only because the guy was Hispanic. Marge was a bigot and came from a family of bigots. She was always saying dumb Latino, and I was expecting Marge to push him away and punch him in the face, and I was getting ready to jump out and punch him in the face when he punched her back. But none of that happened. What did happen was that Marge returned his kiss. I was so surprised and shocked by this that I just stood there and watched. They sat like that for a few minutes, exchanging tongues, and then the guy moved his hands to one of Marge's breasts and started squeezing it. Marge broke off the kiss. "No, Mike, this isn't right. Just look at my computer, please." "I'll look at your computer before I go, baby. But I'm not leaving until I've had a taste of what you've been dangling in front of me for the last 6 months." "No, Mike, you've got it wrong." "Bullshit, baby. That kiss you just gave me told me everything I needed to know. You listened to the other girls in the office talk about my great worth, and you wanted to see if they lied to you. They didn't, and you're gonna love it. Are you going to take that blouse off, or do you want me to rip it off?" Marge pulled away from him and took off her blouse, and Mike said, "And your bra, too," and Marge complied. "That feels really good," Mike said as he tilted his head and took a breast in his mouth. I stood there angry, but at the same time as I watched this asshole master my wife, I began to think about how faithful Marge had been to me throughout our 11-year marriage. I was torn between wanting to pounce and not moving, and seeing how far Marge would go with this guy. I figured I could get mad at this asshole at any moment. But this might be my only chance to see what my loving wife would do. So I stayed put. Marge stood up and slowly took off everything she was wearing except her heels. then slowly turned around to face the asshole. She looked at Mike. "Are you going to strip or what?" "No, honey, you're going to undress me." Marge had her back to me, so I couldn't see the expression on her face, but she stepped forward and started undoing the buttons on his shirt. She took it off him, then pulled his undershirt over his head, and then, as her hands busied themselves with his belt, she did something I'd never seen her do before. She tilted her head and licked his body. I had to admit that his dignity was pretty impressive. Marge just knelt there looking at him. His hand reached out and grabbed the back of Marge's head, and he pulled her forward. And then she took me aback. She started it. The woman pounced on Mike like a hungry woman on food. I was ready to lunge at them again, kick their asses and take their names. But again, I talked myself into standing still and watching this woman, whom I clearly didn't know at all, to learn something more about her. "Mike, we can't go into the bedroom. We can stay right here on the couch." Mike smirked, and I could almost see the gears turning in his head, but he said, "Okay, sweetums, have it your way." He pulled her onto the couch and said, "I've waited a long time for this, sweetie," and then began to have sex with her. Marge cried out, "Easy, lover, easy. I'm not used to this size. Take your time. Give me time to get used to it." He laughed. "What's the matter, sweetness? Does hubby have a small dignity? Or doesn't he know how to use it? Never mind, you won't need it when I'm done with you." "Take you to your bedroom." "I can't. We can't do it there." "Why not?" "Because it's my husband's room and his bed." "Not tonight, sweetums. After today it will be my bed, just like you will be my cheating girlfriend. All hubby can do for you after today is keep you fed and healthy for me. Come on, take me to your bedroom." No, Mike, we can't." "Okay, sweetie. Get up and get dressed so we can get back to work, because we're done here." "No, please, Mike. Have sex with me some more." "If that's what you want, honey, you better take me to your bedroom." Marge jumped off the couch and hurried into the bedroom, looking over her shoulder and wailing, "Hurry, lover, hurry, I need it!" I gave them a minute or so and then followed her. There was no way I could see what was going on in the bedroom without being seen myself, and I wasn't ready for that yet, so I had to settle for standing in the hallway and listening. In the bedroom, Mike asked Marge which side of the bed I was sleeping on. "Why?" "Because that's where I'm going to make love to you." "Why are you acting like that?" "I'm marking my territory, sweetness. You're my cheater now." I heard an as he started having sex with Marge and forced the air out of her lungs, and for the next 10 minutes I listened to Marge moan. And then Mike grunted and said, "That's it, sweetums. I hope you're protected." I could hear the fear in Marge's voice as she screamed, "Finish it! My diaphragm isn't working." "Sweetie, you should have thought of that earlier and inserted it before you let me insert myself like that." Fear was replaced by terror as she screamed, "No, Mike, for God's sake, no! Don't do this to me! If I get pregnant, my husband will kill me!" "Get over it. You don't belong to him anymore. You're mine now," came a grunt, and Mike said, "Maybe you'll get lucky. Maybe it's the wrong time of the month for you." Then heavy breathing was heard, and after a moment, Mike said, "It was definitely worth the wait, sweetness." I stood there smirking, watching her howl in pain as he had sex with her. But then the howling changed to whimpers and sharp screams, which changed to grunts. And then the moans started, and Mike told her he was going to finish. Marge screamed, No, please not now." Another minute passed before the sex session stopped, and then Mike said, "There, that wasn't so bad, was it?" Oh, God, I never knew it could be this good. "That's just the beginning, sweetie. You're my cheating girlfriend now, and I'm going to take care of your sex education. You're going to do everything for me and love it. The first thing you'll do when we get back to work is tell the guys at the post office that I had sex with you and that you liked it." "I can't do that. What will they think of me?" "They'll think you're a cheater. In fact, it won't be long before they know that, not just think it." "What do you mean?" "By the end of next week, they'll all be sleeping with you." "Oh no, Mike, oh no, I can't do that." "Why not? You said you couldn't with me either, and here we are. That's a different matter, Mike. I can't have sex with any of them. Most of them are Hispanic. There was dead silence for a few seconds, and then Mike burst into laughter. When he pulled himself together, he said, "What am I missing here? Somewhere between the office and this place, I magically change color. I'm Latino. And the thought of what you heard about my big dignity made you forget that?" "Well, yes. It was because I wanted to see if it was true. And now that you know it's true, it's over?" "I don't think so, sweetness. I see the look in your eyes. You're my cheater from now on." "No, Mike. I love my husband, and I already feel guilty about what you and I just did. There's no way I'm going any further." "Whatever you say, Sweetums. We can talk about this later." I didn't wait to see if Marge would protest about having sex with him again. I didn't barge into the room because I suddenly found that I just didn't care. What Marge had just done had ended our marriage, and I suddenly had other worries, like how to avoid a divorce in total failure. Heading for the door, I saw Mike's pants lying on the living room floor, and on a whim, I picked them up and went through his pockets. I took his wallet, his car keys, and a wad of money he kept in one pocket, and then quietly walked out of the house. I drove his car to the rental place and left it parked on the street with the windows down and the keys in the ignition. He sat there and fairly screamed. I went into the rental office and did the paperwork, then went outside and got in my car. As I pulled out of the parking lot, I noticed Mike's car was no longer parked at the curb, and I had to smile. I drove my rental car to the nearest mall and started spending money from Mike's credit cards until 2 out of 3 were declined, after which I threw his wallet and credit cards in the trash can. There was a little over $400 in his wad of cash, and I used some of it to get dinner at the steakhouse before heading home. I was sitting at the kitchen table sipping a beer when the phone rang. I picked it up, and it was Marge. She was alarmed, very, very alarmed. "Honey, where have you been? I tried to call your office, but they said you didn't come in today. I was so worried. I couldn't find you anywhere." "You must not have called here. I don't see any messages on the answering machine." "Have you been home today?" "Yes. As a matter of fact, I was. Why do you ask?" "I don't know, babe. I'm just worried." I interrupted her. "Worried about what? Hispanics?" As I hung up the phone, I heard a sharp intake of breath and then, oh my God! I wondered if this cheater would have the courage to go home. The end! Subscribe to my channel. Thank you.